Okay, so today we will discuss skin. This is the part of your integumentary system. So the skin, this is the largest organ of the body and it is not uniformly thick. So at some places it is thick and at some places it is thin. So the average thickness of the skin is about 1 to 2 millimeter, and in the sole of foot, palms of hand, and in the interscapular region it is considerably thick, so it will measure to about 5 millimeter. And in other areas of the body, the skin is thin. So it is thinnest over the eyelids and penis, measuring about 0.5 millimeter only, right? Then we talk about the layers of the skin. So there are two. Skin is made up of two layers. It is your outer epidermis layer and your inner dermis layer. So this part, epidermis here, this will you will see on the outside, where you can see on your hands, for example, there is a hair coming out of there, and then inside there is the dermis layer, and at the end you have the subcutaneous layer. We will discuss each of these layers in detail, starting with the epidermis. Epidermis is the outermost layer of the skin. So it is formed by your stratified epithelium, and important features of epidermis is that it does not have blood vessels. So on top of the skin you won't see any blood vessels, and nutrients is provided to epidermis by the capillaries of the dermis. So see in the yellow, uh, the small capillaries, sorry, this is the efferent nerve here, but there are small capillaries that will provide the nutrients to the epidermis, which is the outermost part of the skin. Now, coming to the layers of the skin, here you can see different layers. This is the part of epidermis. So epidermis is formed by 5 layers. There is your stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, and stratum spinosum, and lastly your stratum germinativum. Okay, so starting with your stratum corneum. Stratum corneum is also known as your horny layer. So it is the outermost layer which consists of your dead cells, which are also called your corneocytes. So you can just say this will have your stratum corneum will have your dead cells. Okay, next layer, sorry. So stratum corneum, it is also known as your horny layer, and it is consist of dead cells which are known as your corneocytes, and these cells will lose their nucleus due to the pressure, and then they will become dead cells. So the cytoplasm here is flattened with fibrous protein, that is your keratin protein, and a part of this cell also contain a phospholipid and your glycogen. Next layer is your stratum lucidum. So stratum lucidum is also made up of your flat epithelial cells, and many cells have degenerated nucleus, and in some cells the nucleus is completely absent. So as these cells exhibit shiny character, the layer will look like homogeneous translucent zone. So this layer is also called your lucidum, which mean lucid mean clear. So this layer is clear. Then we have stratum granulosum. Granulosum layer, this is thin layer with 2 to 5 rows of flattened rhomboid cells, as you can see on the diagram as well. Cytoplasm will contain granules of proteins called your keratohyalin, and keratohyalin is the precursor of your keratin protein. Next layer is your stratum spinosum. So the stratum spinosum is also known as your prickle cell layer because the cell of this layer possesses some spine-like protoplasmic projection. By these projections, the cells are connected to one another. Lastly, we have the stratum germinativum layer. So the stratum germinativum layer is a thick layer as compared to all other layers, and this layer is made up of your polygonal cells superficially and columnar or cuboidal epithelial cell in the deeper part. So here the new cells are constantly formed by your mitotic division, and the newly formed cells will move continuously towards your stratum corneum. And the stem cells which give rise to these new cells are known as your keratinocytes. Another type of cells here are your melanocytes, which are scattered between your keratinocytes, and these are responsible for to produce the pigments, and the color of the skin will depend on the melanin. So melanocyte will produce melanin pigment, which the color of the skin will depend on. And from this layer, some projection called your retiridges will extend down up to the dermis, and these projections will provide anchoring or nutritional function. So these are the different layer of epidermis. Now we move on to the dermis. So dermis is the inner layer of the skin, and it is connected. It is a connective tissue layer which is made up of dense and stout collagen fibers. So collagen fibers will exhibit elastic properties, and they are also capable of storing or holding water. So collagen fiber will contain your enzymes collagenase, which is responsible for the wound healing. So if we look in detail the different layer of dermis, there are two layers. There is your superficial papillary layer, and then we have your deeper reticular layer. So superficial papillary layer. This layer will project into the epidermis, and it contains all your blood vessels, as you can see on the diagram, lymphatics and your nerve fibers. And this layer also has some of the pigment containing cells that are known as your chromatophores. Then we have dermal papillae. These are the finger-like projections which are arising from the superficial papillae dermis, and each papillae will contain a plexus or capillaries and lymphatics which are oriented perpendicular to the skin surface. Then we have second layer is the deeper reticular layer. So reticular layer, this is made up of your reticular or elastic fibers, and these fibers are found around the hair bulb, sweat glands, and your sebaceous glands. And the reticular layer also contains the mast cells, your nerve endings, your lymphatics, your epidermal appendages, and your fibroblasts. So immediately below dermis, there is your subcutaneous tissue which is present, and it is a loose connective tissue which connect the skin with your internal structure of the body, and it serves as an insulator to protect the body from excessive heat and cold of the environment. And lot of smooth muscles called your adductor pili muscles, they are also found in the skin around the hair follicles. Okay, then we have appendages of skin and color of skin. Appendages of skin, there is your hair follicles with hair, nails, sweat glands, sebaceous gland, and your mammary glands. They are considered as your appendages of skin. Color of skin, they depend on the two factors. So the color of skin will depend on the pigmentation of the skin. So we talk about the melanocytes and melanin, right? So the cells of the skin contain a brown pigment, that is your melanin, which is responsible for the color of the skin, and it is synthesized by your melanocytes, which are present mainly in your germinativum and your stratum spinosum. of the epidermis, and after synthesis, the pigment will spread to the cells of the other layer. Then we have melanin. So melanin is the pigment that is produced by your melanocytes, right? So it forms the major color determinant of the human skin. So skin becomes dark when the melanin content increases, and it is a protein in nature, and it is synthesized by the amino acid tyrosine. So if we have deficiency of melanin, this could lead to your albinism, so that is your hypopigmentary congenital disorders. Another factor which your skin color depend on is your hemoglobin in the blood. So we have hemoglobin in the blood, so amount and nature of hemoglobin that circulates in the cutaneous blood vessels will play an important role in the coloration of the skin. So skin becomes pale when the hemoglobin content decreases. It is pink when the blood rushes to the skin due to the cutaneous vasodilation. So when we are blushing, this process will happen. Bluish during cyanosis, which is caused by excess amount of reduced hemoglobin. Okay, so this was just an introduction. So there, when we talked about the layer of epidermis, there are five layers. Then we have layers of dermis. There are two layers of dermis, that is the superficial papillary layer and reticular layer. Then hair, nails, sweat glands, sebaceous gland, your mammary gland, all of these are known as the appendages of skin. And then we talk about two factors that the color of skin depend on, that is your pigmentation of skin and hemoglobin in the blood. Now we have the functions of the skin. So our skin is more than just a covering for our body. So it is a dynamic, multifunctional organ with vital roles, for example, in protecting, sensing, regulating, or maintaining our health. So when we talk about the skin function, right? First, the skin, we will discuss the protective function of the skin. So the outermost layer, the epidermis, will act as a barrier against harmful UV rays, your pathogens, and environmental pollutant. Meanwhile, your melanocytes, which produce melanin, will protect against sun damage, and acid or acidic pH of the skin will inhibit bacterial growth. So this is the protective function of the skin. Next is the sensory function. So specialized receptors in the skin will detect touch, pressure, temperature, pain, and vibration, and these signals are sent to the brain, helping us respond to our environment and avoid injury. So skin also serve as the storage organ. So the next is the storage function. So the subcutaneous layer stores energy in form of fat along with your vitamins, water, and minerals, and these will reserve help these reserves will help regulate body temperature and support metabolic processes. The skin's synthetic function is vital for producing your vitamin D. So when exposed to the sunlight, the skin converts cholesterol into your vitamin D, which will support bone health and immune function. Um, uh, then next is regulation of the body temperature. So regulating body temperature is another important role. Sweat gland releases moisture that cools the body through the evaporation with blood vessels, while your blood vessels will constrict or dilate to retain or release heat. Skin also help in the regulation of water and electrolyte balance. So sweat glands will release sodium, potassium, chloride during precipitation, and maintaining the body's hydration and electrolyte level in this way. So excretory function. So through its excretory function, the skin will eliminate waste products like your urea, salt, toxins via your sweat, and this will support the kidney in detoxifying the body. Absorptive function of the skin will allow it to absorb certain substances like your medication in your transdermal patches or your nutrients in the skincare product. However, absorption is selective and it depends on the compound size and solubility. Finally, we have the skin secretory function. So the skin will also perform a secretory function. So sebaceous gland, they will produce your sebum, which is a natural oil that keeps the skin hydrated and provides an antimicrobial barrier preventing dryness and infection. So from protection to the regulation, the skin's role are important to your health and well-being, and taking care of your skin means taking care of one of your body's most remarkable system, that is your integumentary system. Okay, we move on to the different types of glands. There is your eccrine gland and apocrine glands. So sweat glands, they are vital for regulating body's temperature and maintaining skin health. But did you know that there are two main types, that is your eccrine and apocrine, and each with unique structure and function. So first, let's look at your eccrine gland. So these are the most common type of sweat gland found almost everywhere on the body, especially on your palms, soles, and forehead. So eccrine glands are open directly onto the skin surface through tiny pores, and they secrete a watery sweat composed mainly of your water, salt, and your trace amounts of your waste products like urea. And the primary function is thermoregulation, which will help to cool your body through evaporation when you're feeling hot. So fun fact about eccrine gland is that eccrine gland are active from birth, making them important for temperature control throughout your life. Next is your apocrine gland. Apocrine gland, which are found in specific areas like your armpits, groin, and around the nipples. Unlike eccrine glands, apocrine glands open into the hair follicles rather than directly onto the skin surface. So, apocrine gland produces a thicker, milky secretions which will contain proteins and lipids, and this sweat doesn't have an odor initially but can develop one when broken down by the skin bacteria, which can lead to the body odor. So let's compare the two. So eccrine glands, they are widely distributed and they secrete watery sweats and help regulate body temperature. Apocrine glands are localized, secrete a thicker fluid, and become active during your puberty, and often they are linked to your emotional stress or your hormonal change. So eccrine gland, they keep you cool during exercise, while your apocrine gland kicks in during your stress and emotional moments. Both type works together to maintain the skin health and support your body's need. So understanding how these glands work will help you take better care of your body, and from staying hydrated to using deodorant, small steps can make a big difference. Okay, we have the mechanoreceptors in the skin, so we will look at the four different types of mechanoreceptors, which are very important. So first we have the Messener's capsules. So these tiny oval-shaped receptors are found in your dermal papillae of the hairless skin, like your fingertips, palms, and your lips. and they specialize in detecting light touch and low frequency vibration. Ever felt the fine texture of fabric with your fingertips? That's your messenger capsules at work, and they are rapidly adapting, which means they quickly respond to change in stimuli, making them perfect for detecting moments of fleeting touch. Now, next is your Merkel cells. So, Merkel cells or Merkel disc, these receptors sit in your epidermis, close to the surface of the skin. They are responsible for detecting sustained light, touch, and pressure, giving you the ability to feel shapes and texture with incredible precision. For instance, when you run your finger over a smooth pebble or read braille, Merkel cells will play a key role. So, unlike Messinger's capsules, Merkel cells are slowly adapting, meaning they continue to respond as long as the pressure is applied. Now, deep within the dermis and hypodermis, we find your uh, pectinian capsules. So these large onion-shaped receptors detect deep pressure and high frequency vibrations. So for example, imagine holding a phone that's vibrating. So pectinian capsules are responsible for picking up those sensations. Like messenger capsules, they are rapidly adapting, making them ideal for sensing dynamic stimuli. Finally, we have the ruffian endings, which are located in both glabrous and hairy skin, and these spindle-shaped receptors will detect skin stretches and sustained pressure. So they are essential for understanding how your skin will move during your task, like gripping an object or feeling tension in your skin. Rough-eye endings, they are slowly adapting, and they ensure that continuous feedback during your prolonged stimuli. So to summarize, Messenger capsule, they will detect light touch and low frequency vibrations, and they are rapidly adapting. Then we have Merkel cells that will sense sustained light touch and pressure, and they are slowly adapting. And Pectinian capsules respond to deep pressure, high frequency vibrations, and they are rapidly adapting. Then we have ruffian endings. They pick up skin stretch and sustained pressure, and they are slow adapting. Okay, now we will look at the topographical distribution of your somatosensory receptors. So this is the one of the questions that appear in exams. Describe the topographical distribution of your somatosensory receptors between your glabrous and your hairy skin. So first, let's explore the glabrous skin. So the smooth, hairless skin that are found on your palms, fingertips, soles, and lips. The glabrous skin is specialized for fine tactile discrimination, making it ideal for the tasks that require precision, like typing or feeling texture. So in glabrous skin, you'll find a high density of Meissner capsules, which detect light touch and low frequency vibration. Merkel cells, which are responsible for sensing fine texture and sustained pressure. Pectinian capsules, which respond to deep pressure and high frequency vibration. And your ruffian endings, which are sensitive to the skin stretch. Now, we examine the hairy skin, which covers most of the body. So, unlike glabrous skin, hairy skin is less specialized for fine touch, but excels in detecting broader mechanical stimuli such as your stretch and movements. So, hairy skin features, you will find your hairy follicle efferents, which are specialized receptors that detect hair movement, providing sensory input about nearby objects or subtle air currents. Then we have roughening endings, which sense skin stretch and contribute to proprioception. Pectinian capsules, though less dense than in glabrous skin, still they will detect deep pressure and vibration. So, how do we compare these two, glabrous and your hair skin? Uh, these type of skin. So glabrous skin is optimized for fine tactile tasks with a higher density of your um, mechanoreceptors like your Messiners or your Merkel cells. Hairy skin focuses on detecting broader stimuli, utilizing the hair follicles, receptors, and ruffian endings for movement and stretch. So together, the unique distribution of somatosensory receptors in the glabrous and hairy skin will ensure that you can perceive a wide range of sensation from the subtle texture of surface to the gentle movement of air, and every part of your skin has a role in keeping you connected to your environment. So this is all for the skin.